Welcome, future clinicians, DPTs, and medical students. Listen, if you've ever stared at a
All right, here is our master study plan for today. We're going to cover cortex layers, then the four lobes, Brodmann mapping, the visual pathway, clinical deficits, and finally, we'll put you in the hot seat with some exam MCQs.
Okay, Section 1, Cortex layers and neurons. So before we can even talk about how the brain functions, we really need to understand its foundational structure. The cerebral cortex is actually super thin, only about 1.5 to 4.5 millimeters thick. It's a bit thicker on the exposed folds, the gyri, and thinner down in the deep grooves, the sulci. And way back in 1909, Brodmann mapped this out into 6 distinct layers, going from superficial to deep, starting right at the top with layer 1, the molecular layer, and going all the way down to layer 6, the multiform layer.
Now, here is a crucial point for your exams, understanding the difference between the granular and agranular cortex. Boards absolutely love testing this, so here is your ultimate rule of thumb. Granular cortex is all about receiving sensory input. I want you to think of the mnemonic grains. Sensory information comes in. Because it processes all those incoming signals, layer 4, the internal granular layer, is huge. Now, on the flip side, we've got the agranular cortex, and that is specialized for motor control. Think action. Motor commands go out. And to send those heavy motor commands all the way down to the spinal cord, layer 5, which houses those giant BET cells, is massive. So remember that. Grains for sensory layer 4 and action for motor layer 5.
Moving right along, Section 2, the four lobes.
Zooming out from those microscopic layers, I want you to think of the four lobes as your big, primary functional buckets. For the frontal lobe, think RPP, MEP. That's reasoning, planning, parts of speech, movement, emotions, and problem-solving. Next, the parietal lobe. Think ORP, orientation, recognition, and perception of stimuli. Occipital is super easy. Just think optical for visual processing. And finally, for the temporal lobe, remember HMS, hearing, memory, and speech. If you lock these acronyms in right now, you'll instantly know which lobe any clinical vignette is targeting.
All right, Section 3, high-yield Brodmann areas. Out of the 52 different areas Brodmann identified, there are just a handful that act as your absolute primary anchors for exams. For primary sensory, it's areas 1, 2, and 3. Just say to yourself, 1, 2, 3, I can feel. For primary motor, it's area 4. Think 4 equals force for movement. Primary vision, that's 17. And primary auditory is area 41. Go ahead and memorize these anchors right now, because they are guaranteed quick points on this foundational mapping questions.
Now, I want to call out a very specific pair of numbers, 44 and 45. In the world of neurology and physical therapy rehab, these two numbers are kind of a big deal. Areas 44 and 45 actually make up Broca's area. This is your motor speech area, sitting right there in the frontal lobe. It's the absolutely critical structure responsible for the physical planning and execution of speech, literally getting the muscles of your mouth and throat to form words.
To really hammer this home, use this trick. Broca sounds like brought-out speech. And when this area gets damaged, say by a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, it results in broken speech. The patient knows exactly what they want to say, but they physically struggle to articulate it. Grasping this expressive aphasia is a guaranteed exam point for all you future therapists out there.
But you can't really talk about Broca without contrasting it with Wernicke's area, which is Brodmann area 22. Wernicke starts with a W, so think word meaning. This is your sensory speech area, back in the temporal lobe, that's responsible for actually understanding language. So, how do they talk to each other? Well, they're connected by a bundle of fibers called the arcuate fasciculus. Think of the arc as a literal bridge between understanding the word at Wernicke's and physically speaking it over at Broca's.
Okay, Section 4, the visual pathway.
Let's shift our focus to the highly tested visual tract. Now, this pathway loves to play tricks on students, but honestly, it all comes down to one really simple crossing rule. Nasal fibers cross, temporal fibers stay. Notice how the fibers from the nasal half of the retina, so the inside halves closest to your nose, they cross over at the optic chiasm.
Meanwhile, the fibers from the temporal halves, the outside edges near your temples, they stay on the exact same side as they travel all the way back to the occipital lobe.
And because of that crossing rule, we get this super easy golden rule for test day. Visual field is opposite. Everything in your left visual field is processed by the right side of your brain, and everything in your right visual field is processed by your left brain. So if a board question mentions a left visual field deficit, boom, you immediately know to look at the right side of the brain for the lesion.
Section 5. Clinical Deficits and Lesions.
This is where we take all that anatomy and tie it directly back to what you'll actually see in the clinic. Let's start with spasticity. This is a huge concept in neurorehab. When you hear spasticity, I want you to immediately think super tight muscles. This altered performance, this hypertonia, isn't just random, guys. It's actually caused by an imbalance between the pyramidal tracts and the extrapyramidal tracts. Just remember, a P versus EX imbalance leads to that super tight spastic presentation. Let's also do a quick side-by-side review of the aphasia so you can instantly spot the clinical differences on a multiple-choice test. Expressive aphasia means a lesion in Broca's area. The patient cannot produce speech. Your mnemonic is broken speech. Receptive aphasia? That's a lesion in Wernicke's area. The patient cannot understand written or spoken words. The mnemonic for that one is Wernicke equals what? Because they don't understand what was just said. And finally, global aphasia involves lesions to both areas, which means a devastating loss of both production and comprehension.
All right, Section 6, Conceptual Exam MCQs.
It is time to put you in the hot seat with some past paper-style conceptual questions. Here's your first clinical vignette. A patient's eyes cannot sweep smoothly to scan a room. They've lost that voluntary scanning eye movement. So, which Brodmann area is likely lesioned? Take a second, think about what controls eye movement.
Got it? The answer is Brodmann area 8, the frontal eye field. Remember our trick? FEF pushes eyes to the opposite side. It controls conjugate eye movement, which allows both eyes to sweep together. So, when area 8 is damaged, that smooth visual scanning is completely lost.
Awesome. Let's do one more. A patient completely loses their sensation of taste. Based on your Brodmann map, which specific cortical area is damaged?
Did you get this one? It's Brodmann area 43, the gustatory cortex. The quick reinforcement trick here is phonetic. Taste equals 40, as in 43. And just for some extra context, it's located right down in the lower end of the postcentral gyrus and the insula.
You guys did absolutely fantastic today. You now have this ultimate foundation, knowing the layers, the lobes, the key Brodmann numbers, and those primary pathways. But I want to leave you with one final, kind of provocative thought. You've mastered the static anatomical map today, right? But how exactly do these intricate pathways dynamically reorganize during a patient's stroke rehab? Like, how does neuroplasticity literally rewrite this map? Keep that question in the back of your mind as you head into the clinic. Because taking this baseline knowledge and applying it to real-world recovery, that is exactly what's going to make you a truly exceptional practitioner. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep crushing those exams.